Similar, somewhat similar in some ways. Oh, he's all dressed up.
To also just start off by thanking the brilliant professor, Hans-Peter Duer, for his contributions to not only science, but to humanity. Because we're in a very important time. I think everyone here knows that. Things are changing. I want to kind of jump off what he presented last night, the foundation of this concept, and I want to make sure I pronounce it right. Wirklichkeit? Pretty close? That's it. And what he said about the definition, which I just love, and that is that reality is always changing. It's always moving. It's always going somewhere, coming from somewhere, and perhaps it's not as linear as our minds can even comprehend. And yet, there are certain phases where our state of consciousness perceives stability, such as, so let's, sorry, I forgot the next or enter. So I'm going to quickly go through this part and go right to the data, and whatever time, next, sorry, go back. I've also been invited to speak tomorrow about what this technology has done to wellness, and so perhaps tomorrow I'll have more time to go into the technicalities of the technology. But I'm going to keep an eye on the timekeeper. Who keeps the, you? Okay, you'll give me a 5-minute warning, because I have all these demonstrations and everything. Okay, so the name of our company is called Clarus Transphase Scientific. And so what we do is kind of right there in the name. Clarus means clarity. Transphase, change of phase states. Scientific, knowledge, this is right from Webster's, knowledge or a system of knowledge covering general truths or the operation of general laws, especially as obtained and tested through scientific method. The technology that we have is called sympathetic resonance technology, or the technology of connecting two or more different states via sympathetic frequency resonance. I'll talk more about that. And then our theory is that if you can clarify the communication pathways between the so-called physical state and the physical state through sympathetic resonance, there will be an increase of expressed potential in the physical state. So this is what we mean by that. This should show up via direct physical measurements and indirect effect measurements. Okay, next. So, for example, here is a apple seed. And, you know, that's a phase of stability. You can look at this apple seed and ponder it and break it apart and look at the elements inside. And yet, somewhere within that seed, or somewhere in the universe, we could say, is the intelligence for the entire spectrum of life of the apple tree. So what I think is relevant to this example is that we are considering that all physical states have a non-physical or a different phase component that is always in communication with the expressed physical state. Next slide, please. So quickly we can see that the seed next goes into the sprout. Now even that phase transition is a tremendous change. Next slide. And the sprout to the, oh, we missed one. It's okay, you guys we go through the stage. It's okay. You guys get the idea here. So now we have the tree, and we're just illustrating that everything physical has this field component that is in communication to the expressed physical state of so-called physicality or stability. And that if we connect somehow and we increase the communication linkages between the so-called physical and the non-physical, there's going to be a greater expression. Something potentially shows up in the physical state. Okay, next slide. Okay, let's see where this goes. Next slide. So here we have the apples, and each apple contains the seed again, and that intelligence continues on with that little bit of diversity, with that little bit of change, chaos, that continues to have that amazing effect in our lives, which is called diversity. So I always love the original concept of a university, which came from the Greeks, is this idea that within diversity there is unity, university. Within diversity there is always something that is unified. And that's what we're beginning to explore with the brilliant minds here today. Next slide. Okay. So at Clarus, we've taken this theory and put it to rigorous testing, and we have all these different applications. Today, we're focusing on water. Next slide. So, okay. So what I'm going to go over today is pH, GDV, ORP, sprout growth, OH intensity, Raman, and UV, if we have time. Next slide.